You'll recall that a few months ago, at the beginning of this year, there was an effort in Kitsap County to remove Trump from the ballot because he committed insurrection. And that effort was led by a Kitsap County teacher who I said at the time was just what I expected when it came to what voter was trying to get Trump off the ballot for impeachment. And when the case failed, and Trump wasn't obviously taken off the ballot by a judge over impeachment, she was a sore loser and just insulted the intelligence of Trump supporters.
I mean, if they want
What
to
if everyone wrote him in?
Good luck spelling.
So what's the point of removing his name from the ballot?
Yeah, suggesting that if you decided to vote Trump in, or to write Trump in, if he wasn't on the ballot, that you wouldn't be able to spell his name. Yeah, that's the kind of people we're talking about here. So that failed. Well, these 34 felony counts give Washington state Democrats another excuse to try to remove Trump from the ballot, which, before I even dive into this, is kind of a dumb idea, isn't it? First of all, there's the principle of the matter. Like, you don't want to vote for him, so you don't want anyone else to have an opportunity to vote for him too. That's weird. The second thing is he's not going to win here. And him being on the ballot is actually pretty destructive, I think, to down ballot Republicans in a state where Trump has had like a 30% approval rating. So why would Democrats want him off? Because to me, Trump's the death knell for Republicans down ticket. So you'd want him front and center, so all the other Republicans, you could align with him. So I don't understand the desire to take him off. If I was a Democratic strategist, that is not something that I would pursue. But as always, there are people who are just so ideological that they need to spend time trying to go after Orange Man bad. So Danny Westneat with the Seattle Times, here's his headline: Plot twist, Waugh has a law against felons running for office. Now, Danny Westneat is a columnist, so it's important to remember that he gives his opinion. And here's what his article says. First of all, he encourages local Republicans to somehow put a different presidential contender from the right on the ballot. I'm not really sure how that would work since he's the party's nominee or whatever. It says if local Republicans knew what was good for them, they would now move to drop Donald Trump from Washington's fall ballot. I know they won't. They're in too deep. Trump won 76% of our state's GOP presidential primary vote. It's become like a cult as the party seems eager to debase itself by shedding all its longstanding talk about the rule of law and personal responsibility, as well as any chance of winning here in Washington, to sink even deeper into the muck of Trump. Now, again, I don't know how the state Republican Party would have a choice in removing someone from the ballot or how that would even work. And we can get into some of the points he makes there about Republicans now supporting Trump, who has 34 felonies, but talking about law and order. You know, we could have conversations about that all day long. But here's where he gets into these efforts to use a old Washington state law to try another round of get Trump off Washington's ballot. It says, here's another reason to dump Trump from the Washington ballot. If Republicans don't do it, somebody else probably will. It turns out Washington has a law on the books against convicted felons running for office. It was first established back when Washington was a territory in 1865 that anyone convicted of infamous crimes could be blocked from holding elected office. That was modified in 1959 and then again more recently to the scheme we have today. Any registered voter can, quote, challenge the right of a candidate to appear on the general election ballot for any of 5 causes. State law says. One of those causes is flashing in bold neon lights today, quote, because the person whose right is being contested was, previous to the election, convicted of a felony by a court of competent jurisdiction, the conviction not having been reversed, nor the person's civil rights restored after the conviction. So now there's this question of can they or would they, right? Well, Danny Westneat spoke to an attorney who says that he has clients lining up to try to do this. So this is just isn't Danny Westneat with the Times saying, hey, they could do this. Democrats, here's the law. You could do this. No, he has some people who are saying they will. He spoke to David Vogel, who's a Seattle attorney and former deputy prosecutor for King County, who was briefly involved with the first effort to get Trump off the ballot. He told the Times, I have clients lined up who are going to be all over pursuing a ballot challenge in this case. Danny Westneat says, I asked the Secretary of State's office if there was some reason this provision allowed ballot challenges against convicted felons might not apply in this case. For example, is it only for state and local candidates, not federal? And the Secretary of State's office told him, quote, whether that provision applies would be a good question for courts to decide. So my reading of it is that it has to do with state and local elections, but that wouldn't stop somebody from trying to challenge it. And then similar to the Kitsap case, hopefully there's a sane judge who says, look, no, I'm not going to remove Donald Trump Trump from the ballot. But they can waste their time doing that while we focus on the issues and other critical things impacting Washington state. Fine. I actually, like, as annoying as it is, you do you. If you want to do that and twiddle your thumbs doing that, fine. It just says a lot more about you than it does about anything else. But here's the line. In this entire Danny Westneat article that I gotta say really got to me. He said, so one thing conspicuous, so he talked to a bunch of Republicans in the state and candidates and asked them about this. And Republicans were pretty lockstep that they felt that the prosecution against Trump was politically motivated. And so he said, one thing conspicuously missing, nobody said he didn't do it. Nobody said he's a good man, he's innocent. Even his staunchest defenders know he did it. Here's the line, 5 words. He says, what happened to you, Republicans? What happened to you, Republicans? So that's Danny Westneat suggesting in those 5 words that Republicans have lost all their morality, are complete hypocrites because they support a felon for president, and have lost all the sort of moderacy that Republicans in this state are known for. Here's the reason why that line bothers me so much. The media in the Seattle Times has always been more critical of Republicans, long before Donald Trump. Long before Donald Trump. Everything is the fault of Republicans, even at times where Democrats have been in full control of the state. They've always been critical of Republicans. And now he wants to come out and say, what happened to you, Republicans? You know, you vilified them for so long. Now they're just don't care anymore what you think. They don't care to try to prove their moderacy to you. Because even when they were, by and large, very moderate, even when Donald Trump wasn't particularly popular in this state, which has been ever since he started running, you've still tied all the Republicans here to Donald Trump. You've still vilified them as MAGA, right-wing, lockstep with the Democratic Party. So if you're going to call them that anyway, maybe they decided, well, let's just not hide it anymore. Let's just act like that. Let's just support Trump. They're going to vilify us. There were a lot of Republicans in the state who I think distanced themselves from Donald Trump because they knew it would be bad for them in a state like Washington. But what did they get for that? Well, they were vilified anyway. They were called MAGA anyway. They were called right-wing anyway. So why are they going to distance themselves from him now when the Seattle Times and the Democrats are just going to call them the same thing that they've been calling them for 8 years? So what happened to you, Republicans? The media happened to them. Democrats happened to them. Lies and gaslighting and fear-mongering and accusations that Republicans are somehow to blame for everything that ails the state of Washington. Meanwhile, they have no power in Washington. That's what happened to them. And they finally stopped giving an F what you had to say about him. And they're supporting Donald Trump, and they're supporting him despite 34 felony convictions. And look, again, we can agree to disagree on that. It is a difficult situation because, you know, Bob Ferguson came out and he said, we shouldn't have a felon, you know, I don't know his exact words. Like, basically, we shouldn't have a felon elected to the presidency or something. And it's like, well, he came out and supported Tara Simmons, who very proudly is a former felon elected to the State House in Olympia. So where's the line there? Where's the line of hypocrisy? I know the president of the United States is much different, but either you celebrate felons or you don't. So it's a push and pull, but there's also clear political implications of this case. This case would have never been brought if Donald Trump wasn't running for the presidency. Just plain and simple. Even talking heads on CNN said that. So that's not Brandi. I don't even particularly like the guy. I've said that a million times. But what happened to you, Republicans? You always treated them like garbage. You've always treated them like garbage. And now you're acting like, oh no, Republicans used to be great. We used to love Republicans and the moderates and all that. No. You've never treated them like that.